We've got some pretty big MMO news that I really want to talk about. We've got some new MMOs that are coming out, some that are going into release, some that are going into early access soon, and one of the oldest MMOs still running is changing things up in a big way. Throne and Liberty is marching ahead with its global release in September, all with some major changes from its recent open beta. And perhaps most importantly to everyone watching, some major news regarding AI that may impact every single game you play going forward. And I guess also some good news or bad news depending. My camera is not currently working, so you're not going to get to see my face at all in this video. I guess I actually could possibly just be AI at this point. But moving on, let's talk about some MMO news. We'll start with perhaps the highlight of the news specific to today. Fractured Online, an indie top-down MMORPG, is leaving early access and going into full release. Today, July 24th, 2024, it will bring with it fresh start servers and a complete PvE experience with a revamped PvP experience. Originally pictured as a game that would have a separate PvP planet, it now instead will have primarily non-PvP zones and one large PvP zone with significantly better rewards in that zone. Work on the second planet is ongoing, but that has all been moved to post-launch. Fractured Online is definitely highly influenced by Ultima Online from its more open structure of advancement and sandbox trappings, and while at times as I played it I thought it felt a bit, a little bit rough, there were definitely things I really enjoyed. If you're looking for something like Ultima Online, this might be a good one to try. And I definitely would suggest this over Legends of Aria Classic, the non-NFT version of the once NFT MMO. Fractured Online has had an interesting history themselves, starting as an indie project, getting a publisher, breaking up with that publisher, re-releasing into early access, and now finally hitting 1.0 with their team of 8 people working on the game over the last 7 years. Congratulations to Dynamite Studios on this milestone, and I wish them all the best. While Fractured Online may be leaving early access, a few other MMOs are planning on going into early access, and it's raised some interesting questions, like whether or not you should have a wipe or not, and just what exactly early access means, things that we're not going to be able to answer in this video. But you're more than welcome to comment them down below. Pax Dei went into early access earlier this year, and it looks like some of the reviews on the MMO may be shifting, as since its release into early access in June of this year, reviews have turned from mixed to mostly positive for their recent reviews. It won't be the only MMO in early access this year though, as Corepunk, the top-down MOBA-inspired MMORPG, has set a November date for early access, with 3 packages available ranging from $37 to $59. Joining Corepunk and Pax Dei in this early access development phase is Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, which will also be moving into early access to continue their development with a stated date of December of 2024. More details to come on pricing and monetization later on Pantheon, though I do have a more complete video on the details that we do have already, and I've linked that down below. A game that is not going into early access but will definitely have a head start, will Throne and Liberty wrap their open beta with an extended day. Overall, it's a gorgeous MMO with great performance, but heavily leaning into some of the worst parts of modern MMOs, like quest objectives everywhere you go, and really just not really much interest in doing the actual leveling process, at least in my humble opinion. And I'll continue to have really extreme reservations about their monetization, but it does look like it's on track for launch in September, and it'll probably still be the largest MMO launch of 2024, especially with near silence on Blue Protocol so far. It's by no means a bad game, so it's something to look forward to if that's your kind of game and you're looking for something new. There will also potentially be a pretty big patch between what was shown for the beta and what will actually be launching with the MMO. There will be a pretty significant skill system update and essentially a content update. It'll be called the Leap Update, and this will include life skills including fishing, cooking, and something called the Amattoir Expedition, which sounds kind of like an offline grind for your crafting. It's stated by NCSoft as something that even when you're not online, you can collect crafting materials and growth items with your cute Amattoir. So take that as you will. It'll also include skill specialization for up to 5 skills and a new region, Talandre. At the very least, there should be more of Throne of Liberty than what was seen in the open beta. But it also comes with something called a hyper boosting server, which sounds a bit weird, but also is probably kind of similar in a lot of ways to some other things that other MMOs do, like even like Black Desert Online has their XP servers and things like that, and perhaps even something like an event, because NCSoft describes this hyper boosting server as a limited time server that is newly open to support the rapid growth of your adventures. On the hyper boosting server, you can quickly grow your character while benefiting from boosting events and passes that are different from those on existing servers. Once your character has grown, you can transfer it to a server of your choice through server transfer. You can also wait until the server is closed and merge with another server to continue playing. It will have 2x experience, 2x Solent, 2x co-op dungeon rewards, etc. I don't know, honestly, it sounds kind of awful to me to have this existing alongside other servers because it's just weird, I guess, but maybe that's just me being kind of old school, I don't know. The hyper boosts are limited time, so I guess they're kind of like holiday events you get in other MMOs, just with a separate pass to do so. But before we talk about the old MMO, let's talk about some bigger news that could impact just about every game out there, including many MMOs you either currently play or may play in the future. Do you remember SAG-AFTRA actors and writers strikes that shut down studio productions as they fought for various worker rights and perhaps most keenly, AI protections? Well, that could potentially happen with games as well. The negotiations seem to mostly be around AI protections for video game performers. According to GameDeveloper.com, this is part of the negotiations to add those AI protections to the current interactive media agreement, which covers and protects voice actors and performers in some of your favorite games. If the union and game companies can't come to an agreement on AI protections, this could bring a swift halt to the production of games across the industry, MMO and otherwise. And we may have gotten a little bit more information on just what those protections are looking for with a post from Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic Games, who had the following to say on the recent press release from SAG-AFTRA about the strike authorization. Epic supports the Screen Actors Guild's view that game companies shouldn't receive generative AI voice training rights on dialogue recording sessions. If a company wants to offer to license an actor's or actress's voice for generative AI training, there should be a very clear and specific contract for that. They should be free to say no, perhaps in stronger words, and if they agree, then they should be compensated accordingly. To be clear, this doesn't mean a strike has been called or is imminent. Just that one has been authorized by 98% of the union members should an agreement not be reached on these critical protections. In somewhat related news to the SAG-AFTRA strike authorization, you have World of Warcraft developers forming a wall-to-wall union at Blizzard Entertainment, a union that will comprise of over 500 developers that will be representing the entire World of Warcraft development team. The new unit will be called the World of Warcraft Game Makers Guild, and it will comprise the entire World of Warcraft development team, including designers, engineers, artists, quality assurance testers, and more. Lastly, in old school MMO news, Ultima Online is moving forward with their new legacy server, or Shard as they call it. It looks to be a much more manageable experience from everything I've seen and what people have said who have actually tested it. A seasonal RPG-like experience where you build up a legacy in-game, but you can actually join me in testing it this weekend because they'll be having an open beta for it starting Friday, July 26th and running through Sunday, July 28th. They go on to state that the beta test weekends will continue until launch day from here, but I'm going to give them a little bit of wiggle room here and not say that it'll be every weekend until launch, even though it kind of sounded like that, but it'd be definitely cool if it was. These are still tests though, and they'll be providing instructions on what they're specifically testing for each weekend. I personally can't wait to try this. UO was my first MMO I ever played, and I'm excited to see them doing something new. I'll be sure to report back on my experience, but you can get more details on exactly what Ultima Online's new legacy will be like in this video right here, which I guess you can't see me pointing to because my camera doesn't work. I will work to remedy this camera issue, or I guess I'll just become a faceless MMO channel.